Viewer discretion advised. This episode contains strong language, adult themes, potentially frightening content. Listener discretion is strongly advised. All content is for entertainment purposes only. Any true crime or historic information discussed is publicly available online. Welcome, spooky souls, to another chilling episode of Harlots of Spooktalk. Tonight we're taking a haunted journey down the gaslit streets of New Orleans, where history and legend intertwine in ways that still leave people questioning what's real and what's lurking in the shadows. Have you ever heard whispers about mystery young women arriving in the French Quarter carrying strange coffin-shaped trunks? And then you're in for a treat. Tonight, we're diving into one of New Orleans' most infamous legends, the Casket Girls.
That's right. We're exploring history, the folklore, the vampire rumors, and the stories of New Orleans centuries. And this is one extra special because all of us have spent time wandering those historic streets ourselves.
From haunted tours and eerie alleyways to centuries-old buildings filled with stories, New Orleans has a way of making history feel very, very alive. Tonight, we'll be sharing some of our own experiences along with the fascinating history behind one of the city's most endearing mysteries.
But we're not doing it alone. Tonight, we're thrilled to welcome very special guest and fellow lover of all things dark, strange, and historical.
Joining us is Brenda from the podcast Dark History, where she explores historical, true crime, paranormal mysteries, and the stories that most history books leave out.
Brenda has also traveled through New Orleans chasing history and hauntings, making her the perfect person to help us unravel the legend of the Casket Girls. Brenda, welcome to Harlots of Spooktalk.
Before we unlock the mystery of New Orleans, let's thank tonight's sponsor, Tussle Women's Fighting Fitness Gear.
Whether you're training in the gym, stepping up to the ring, or simply embracing your inner warrior, Tussle has quality gear designed specifically for strong women who fight for their goals.
And the best part, you can get 15% off your order by using promo code HOST at checkout.
Visit Tussle today and gear up like the fierce legends we're talking about tonight.
And that's 15% off with promo code HOST. Now grab your lanterns and mine the shadows.
Because we're heading deep into the heart of old New Orleans,
where history, hauntings, and legend collide. This is Harlots of Spooktalk, the Casket Girls.
Oh, you think you got away? Oh, you think you got away? Harlots of Spooktalk. Harlots of Spooktalk. LD is your witch. Tiff is your investigator. Carly is your dark one.
Tonight we have a guest, Dark History Paranormal Investigation podcast. Her name's Brenda, and we're going to dive deep into Casket Girls and New Orleans. You know how we feel about that? Well, welcome in, Brenda. If you want to tell us a little about yourself quick, please.
Well, I am the creator and host of Horrifying History, and you can find that on every major podcast provider. We release our episodes each Wednesday, and we're on social media, so you can find us there too. But also, we have a YouTube channel, the same name, and we do, I guess, stories more about historical true crime. If it's gory, we have it.
Yeah.
Right up our alley.
It sure is. It sure is. I love all the history of I just love the history of anything.
think that history is more interesting than fiction.
It is, and it's more
Absolutely.
darker, more gorier. Like, if you want a good read, read a I'm telling you, look up some history, and
Absolutely.
it's gonna blow your mind. It always does. The
It
Mhm.
has a
twist.
little bit of everything in it, so it's like you're getting a good story, but you're also getting, like, there's crimes and everything with it, so
You just learn how either crazy people can be or, stupid at times, or there's how things just happen, like something just weird things happen.
mhm.
It really does, and that's what makes it the best.
I love being weird.
Yep, I'm part of that weirdo club myself.
So the Casket Girls. I was so excited to do this one because I'm like, wait a minute. So we went to New Orleans and then we haven't actually done that one, and you don't see it very often. Not a lot of people talk about it.
Oh,
Well, they
So
really?
talk and they talk about the lore. They don't really talk about the actual history of it and what made the lore such a legend in its own. And these women are a legend in their own making, and not sometimes by their choice.
That's very true.
It really is. And, Brenda, do you wanna go over a little of the history of why the Casket Girls and maybe the first experiment with this up in Quebec, and then how it led into New Orleans?
she's
Well,
like, here,
this
let me tell you the history. I understand.
I love it.
the history of the Casket Girls is actually one of the most fascinating mixtures of colonial history combined with tragedy and folklore and a little bit of paranormal. And that's why I really love the topic. And you're right, it's not talked about enough. The truth behind it is actually complicated because over the centuries, historical facts have been blurred with ghost stories and legends, and tourism kind of puts a little extra in there. But today, I was going to tell you the truth, the real truth about the Casket Girls. So in the early 1700s, the French colony of Louisiana was actually having serious problems with population because there was just not enough women to marry all the eligible French settlers. Now, the problem wasn't a new one, as you mentioned, Quebec City. Quebec City was the first colony in Canada that was a French colony, and it was called New France. So, between the years of about 1662 and 1673, the French government sent about 800 women to the colony New France, and they were supposed to marry people. Now, their names were filles de roi, different than Casket Girls. Now, the reason is it means daughter of the king. And that's the reason why the king of France paid their dowry in exchange for them to immigrate to the New World. This drew in young women who didn't have much money, who who were widowed, things like that. And the program actually was a really big success because I'm actually descended from two of those ladies. So it worked out. Now, knowing this worked, the governor of Louisiana asked the French government to send over eligible women to Louisiana to marry the French settlers in Louisiana. And then they can grow the population. Problem will be solved. Now, he thought the king was going to send the women like who was sent up here over to Quebec City, aka New France. They didn't. The French government sent, it was about 250 women. They were from orphanages, poorhouses, convent schools, and charitable institutions. Now, they were called La Fille de la Cassette. Do you guys know what that means?
No, I do
French.
not.
It means girls with small trunks, which they were given to pack their very few possessions into. Now, over time, the word cassette became casket after English speakers they presumed it referred to a coffin. So this misunderstanding just fueled all the paranormal stories centuries later. It's just that simple. They made a misspelling or misspeaking.
But weren't they called there was another not like they weren't just called that, they were called there was other name for them too, instead of just
Well, I don't think the feeder rod actually went and got a hold. But the thing is, it's because of that and a couple other factors. So in the early 1700s, French Louisiana was like overwhelmingly male. And these guys were soldiers, fur traders, trappers, laborers, and sailors. So the French officials feared that the Louisiana colony would collapse without the families and children. And then the Catholic Church started worrying that moral decay was starting to happen. And that's why they made a lot of earlier attempts to populate the colony and it failed, is because they sent prisoners, recently released sex workers, and women from poorhouses. Not the best plan. So the crown and the church, they sat down and said, let's make a new one. We're going to send who we think is respectable, and they could become wives and mothers of the colony. So they were usually poor, socially vulnerable, orphaned, and under the church's supervision. Now, as we were mentioning before the show, the women didn't have a choice really. The French officials who organized their transport called them women without futures. Isn't that nice?
Wow.
Women without futures.
That's fabulous.
The scary thing that I found in my research is the youngest was 12 years old, and she was a sex worker in Paris since the age of 6. That
What?
it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, you
Si-
said a
6?
6. Yeah, they pulled her off the street at 12 years old and sent her to get married. That to me is insane.
Yeah.
The worst one that I found out, that is some of the women's families demanded they get shipped out so they can just be rid of them and not pay for them anymore.
Wow.
So I
And
guess
I bet these men were older than these women too.
oh,
So,
for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Again, they keep them vulnerable.
They did.
And what choice did they have? Do you wanna stay on the streets or try to get a new life? I would take the B option. Now, the deal that these girls made with the crown was that the king would pay for their passage to the New World. He'd give them a small dowry and some supplies. For this, the ladies were expected to marry colonists in Louisiana. Now, to make it official, the women had to sign a marriage contract before they left France. It was crazy. But the Casket Girls did see it as a new start and a possible economic opportunity. They could pull themselves out of poverty. So they all believed that when they got married, they'd have land and stability in the colonies, but they found out reality was a lot worse. Now, this part actually has to deal a lot with the legend of the Casket Girls. Their trip across the Atlantic was a nightmare. They were traveled down to inland France to the port cities. They then stopped at Haiti and moved to the Gulf of Mexico. Now, this trip back then would take months. These women were chained together and kept in the ship's hold, and they suffered from horrible conditions like cramping, disease, spoiled food they were given to eat, dehydration, yellow fever, scurvy. And many of the women died in that voyage to the New World. Now, when they got to the New World, to New Orleans, they were actually put into warehouses in New Orleans. They were examined. The reason why is they could be examined by any man who wanted a wife. Almost sounds like almost sounds like the slave trade, doesn't it?
mhm.
Yes,
That's exactly.
100%.
Because that they did the exact thing to slaves that were in New Orleans at the time. Now, the local Ursuline nuns were really heavily involved with supervising them so they wouldn't get into trouble. Many of the women actually were staying temporary with the nuns in the old Ursuline convent where their marriages were being planned. Did you guys go to the old Ursuline convent?
No, we didn't get there. I wanna get there.
Oh, it's a very
No.
interesting place. Now, when they're there, the nuns taught them domestic skills and watched them until they were married. And most of the women were married within 6 months of their arrival. But
Mm-mm.
but not all of them got married. So what do you think happened to them?
That's what I'm like, wait, so what happened to the rest of them? They probably became
Weren't they put to
slaves.
work or something? Yeah.
In the almhouses.
Yeah.
Well, some of the women refused the man that they were matched with. Some were abandoned by their spouse, which involved them having to do sex work to survive. Like,
Mm-mm.
they did not have a new start. Others worked as domestic servants, doing seamstress work. They either entered the convent or had a dependency on charity. But they had nothing. The colonial authorities expected them to marry, so the ones who didn't faced social and economic hardship. Many of them died young from disease, childbirth, violence, hurricanes, because, well, that's where it is, and poverty, which made it's really sad. These girls went through a nightmare of a trip, barely survived, just to not being able to get better as they were promised.
That's just freaking sad, and they didn't have any say-so in it.
Nope, not really. That's why the French government went to the church, because again, they were the ones that were running like the poorhouses and things like that.
The
So,
church, right?
right. And these women that survived became ancestors of a lot of Louisiana Creole families. Some descendants later on became wealthy plantation owners, merchants, and prominent citizens. Now, by the mid 1700s, the import of marriage aged women actually faded a lot. And this was because the colony was more stable, the population was growing, and on top of this, control of the area changed from France to Spain. By the time we hit the late 18th century, the Casket Girl era had ended. But these women, if you think about it, their legacy is huge. The Casket Girls helped establish French Creole culture and populated early Louisiana. That completely shaped New Orleans and created the family lineages and reinforced Catholic traditions of the colony. They became a symbol later on of survival, hardship, and the exploitation of women. And they're also very deeply tied to New Orleans haunted legends. So, have you guys heard the legends of the Casket Girls?
Yep.
Yep.
Sure have.
So, what do you remember?
A lot of it, like with the Casket Girls, when they talk about them, they talk about how, like you said, they were pale when they came off the ship.
Right.
And then, so, which they would be: vitamin D deficiency, anemia, being down in a dark room, no sunlight. Of course, they're going to be sick. And of course, they're going to be pale. So, the local lore came out with vampires.
Exactly.
Because they were pale and they were carrying this coffin, like with their clothes in it. And then a lot of them went up into the nunnery, up into the attic. Yet again, I hate to say it, it was boarded up. So yet again, they still ain't getting sunlight. And then that's another local lore that came. Oh, they need to be in the dark. They need it. Like a lot of local lore came up with that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it actually comes from these girls coming off the ship being sick, looking pale, being thin. Like, of course, they're gonna look like that.
Back then, yes.
But we all know how this plays out. We all know how our history has a lot of lore. And we look at somebody, and I hate to say it, people judge. And they had to find a reason why these girls look like that. They couldn't say, oh, they've been in a ship for so long and they were so mistreated. We couldn't say that. We
No.
didn't want to say that. So we brung up a lore with it, vampires. And that is down there.
I find a lot of lore actually comes up because people don't understand. Like people getting buried alive, for example. They didn't, before that, they were not allowed to do autopsies because that was considered desecrating a body, so you couldn't do it. So a lot of these things of illnesses, like for example, rabies or tuberculosis, those were the two main things that people thought were vampires. They're actually a vampire because blood coming up and being pale and being a little bit of a hunter sort of thing. If you look up vampire lore, pretty much everywhere there was an outbreak of vampires, it actually was during an outbreak of tuberculosis and rabies. So it's the same thing here, except they didn't have either one of those. Now, the Ursuline convent actually was founded back in Italy in 1535, and they actually grew pretty quickly and had missions around the world. So the ones in New Orleans came over at 1727, and their goal was to be teachers and nurses. But they soon became famous for their education of females that they provided in the community. But these ladies weren't like other nuns. They were now ground zero for that current day legend of the Casket Girls. And it's exactly what you said. When they came to the New World, they were gaunt, malnourished, sick from the poor conditions. They were pale. Those who survived would be then moved to the convent to be nursed back to health. But according to the legend, the Ursuline nuns did not bring them into their home, and they were the ones who accidentally brought the first vampires to New Orleans.
Yep, that's local lore with them.
Yeah.
And it's all over New Orleans. Like, you cannot throw a stone and not hit vampire lore.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And that is where and people don't get it. It's in the history of the location.
Yeah. They even today have a vampire bar
Yes.
Speakeasy, I went to it, got my drink in a blood bag. It was really cool.
We had those too.
Yeah,
Yep.
we had them at the apothecary.
Yeah.
Did you get to go into the speakeasy?
Well, actually, no, we went to the apothecary and we got to go upstairs and be in the rooms upstairs above the
Oh,
bar.
that's a whole
Oh,
nother
Yeah,
nice.
story.
yeah, it was kind of cool, but it kind of wasn't because we realized we were actually in a voodoo temple at that point. So it was like, oh no. But
See, what
to me, it was kind
happened
of cool.
was,
We didn't think that at the time. We thought it was a whole different other room at the time until Carly likes to go down a rabbit hole and figure out where we really
Yeah,
were.
I was
We
going
all
to
thought we were
tours.
somewhere else, and we
I was
really
like, no.
weren't.
you,
I love going to New Orleans. It's one of my go-tos. Like me and my husband go down there. Um, it's something I say this before. It's something about for me New Orleans with the local lore in that and the history of New Orleans. It draws me there. Like I feel refreshed when I'm there. It's just something about walking the same streets as people back, and as I don't know, I explained the history of the location. You can still walk down the street and feel the history there like the Pirates Alley right next to the
Absolutely.
church. That's another local thing I love hearing about how the undesirable women would actually stand and prostitute themselves right next to the church,
Yep.
right there. I love hearing. And I was like, why would you like? Because I want to hear the flight of women. I want to know what they went through. It's the it's the oldest job out there is prostitution for women. I hate to say it, and people can come for me all they want. It is.
Well, it's
Um,
true though. So
it's
I
something
mean,
we had to give, like, it was something we had and we can sell. So and I like to know stuff like that. So knowing, like, these women came here, and some of them were prostitutes back in France, and I hate to use the word undesirable, but that is the word people
They
use back
used.
in the day. Yeah.
Mhm.
The undesirables, we came here, and I'm sorry, they might have started with nothing, but these families grew. And because of these women, we now have some of the best families down there.
Mhm.
And their great grandparents, great, 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 are these women.
Mhm.
And I wish people would actually look them up and see where they came from, know what they went through, and
Well,
then walk the streets.
think about the risks they took
Yeah,
back then to try to have a better life. Like
it's me.
that's I have all the respect for them for that.
absolutely
So do I.
same.
Like,
it's hard to just leave your family, go to another country by yourself, and then be handed off to probably. When I think they're handed off to men, the first thing I think is big, sweaty, musky. Ugh, you
oh,
know.
some of these men they were I hate to say pirates of the sea, but a lot of these were traders coming
Mhm.
off the ships
Yeah.
and making New Orleans home. So, yeah, you were handed off to a burly man that might beat you. I hate to say it
Mhm.
back then.
Thinking like
That was
60
just,
years old, like, hey, let's have some babies. And you're like, ew, no. You know,
but they didn't have a
that's
choice.
Nope.
right.
They were brought here for a reason, and that was the reason.
And if they didn't, they're back into poverty.
And they're living in almhouses, poorhouses, and that's nowhere. You're around disease then. You're around TB. You're around all the diseases that you can even muster and think to ourselves. Like we couldn't even imagine that type of life
No.
nowadays.
Yeah, none of
Mhm.
us want to go out and just, oh, we're going to go off by ourselves and try to make it in the world because we don't have that. I wouldn't say
Like,
push,
hey, let's
but
go to
like
Ireland. I'm on my way. Like, let's go. And
I
take
don't
us there.
I
Calm
don't want to
down.
say we're having no, shush. I can't get a passport. So anyways, yeah, that's
That
what I
came
was
out
saying.
really bad. That sounded really
Yeah, that sounded really bad, dude.
She
I'm gonna throw
can.
that out
She
there.
can. She's just scared
She
of
just don't
flying.
want
Don't.
to. Yeah.
She's not. Yeah. But what's crazy, I never heard that before. Like I knew from my understanding when they came over, they brought the caskets, but it wasn't a casket at all, is what you were saying. It was
No,
actually just a trunk.
No.
it was shaped kind of like that. Now, in some tales, the women's small trunks were never opened until they got married. But in other tales, the trunks were opened before they got married, revealing they were empty. So the legend has it that vampires they wanted to go out to the new world because why not? Either to increase their numbers or it was difficult to hide in the old world. So, in some versions of this tale, the vampires pretended to be live girls and women to get themselves into Louisiana. If you think about it, it's a little ridiculous.
Mhm.
But these women allegedly slept in the caskets that they brought with them, and they would search for victims on the street at night. The first vampires of the New World were allegedly smuggled into America and settled over in Louisiana. But to me, that's bizarre. Why you got your castle, with all your minions and, have your little grave, casket in the basement. Why would you wanna leave that?
And not only that, but because of that local lore, we have people like, I hate to say, Anne Rice. We have some of the best novels made from women and men who understand the history of New Orleans, who did their research and took that and ran with it and made these great things that today we still read, we still watch, we still love to learn about it. That would never have came about if it wasn't for this local lore. And we gotta,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? So that's amazing to me. And like I said, walking down them streets, you feel the history. You
Absolutely.
feel the despair, the love too. Like New Orleans, yet again, the people are their love is so different. And I can't explain it. Like it's just something about New Orleans.
It's a southern thing.
For me,
Just
It's
honestly, I felt really at home there because, I'm a spooky sort of girl, and the whole place is spooky, so I just fit in right well.
and the goth I love the gas lights like flickering as you're walking at night.
Mhm.
Like it, it's just something about that place. And if you're a history buff or a paranormal buff or anything spooky, that place has something for you. You just
Absolutely.
gotta know where to look and you gotta listen to the local lore. And you gotta also do some of your research and see where that local lore came out. And you'll be surprised. Like you said earlier, history is
beautiful.
it's beautiful. I always say there's always light in darkness. There's always
Absolutely.
light. And right there is prime example. These women came over, they were despaired. They went through hell to get to the new world where they were promised everything and got given nothing, basically. And that despair, I couldn't even imagine how they felt. But because of that, we have these families nowadays down there, even to this day, that came and spawned because of that decision. You know what I mean?
They were
So
brave. They were really brave to do it.
they were, like you
Uh,
said,
well, the thing is, so these trunks that they're bringing, if you look at, like, artist renditions and stuff like that, they're not that big, so I don't know how I can understand the word change, the translation to French to English, I get that, but how could you think that like, they don't
yeah,
they're a
they were
trunk.
like,
Like, how small were these women? Like, or either that or how you could think she could fit in there, but I guess the logic was not that good back then.
no, I guess the magic was around or something because I know what you mean. They were small.
The
Like,
legends say that the Casket Girls' trunks were stored up in the Ursuline nuns' convent in the attic, and then there was basically as soon as they arose, they started sneaking out to feed at night, then come back and then close the attic shutters to be held tight shut by sunrise. But I don't know if you heard this piece, but when this was happening, when the nuns figured it out, uh, they sealed that third floor attic door shut. They closed the shutters and nailed them closed with nails that were blessed by the Pope himself, according to this legend. Like, I don't even know. Seriously, how do you get it back in time? If it's like a 6, 8 month voyage, this is what the missing part of the legend is. Did they, people held them closed or, they just let people get eaten? And then they're like, okay, it came today in the mail. And then they could lock it up. I don't know.
yet again, like you said, like the thought process is not there back then
It's
for this
not.
stuff. It really ain't.
Okay, and like the bar we were at, I will tell you, I felt like we were in an attic and there was a casket in there.
It was.
And there were
Yeah.
those little attic window thingies. So it's like, and they had a what picture or something
Of
in the
the
room we were
Yeah, it
in.
Yes.
was closed off.
So
It was closed off. But they ended up saying, from what they told me and Carly, was they closed off that window so nobody would see the woman in the window. People kept seeing
Yeah.
like a spirit in the window. That's why they closed it off. But now I'm like,
We saw a
and
window.
also
We
with
saw a
really
girl in the window.
Yeah. We got to
I have videos of it, but it's I don't know. I could pull it up if you want, but it might take a minute. But or I could just,
yeah,
But
put it in here.
I never heard that story when I was in the speakeasy. I feel like I missed
Yeah.
out.
Well, the speakeasy, that's a different bar. We're
Mhm.
talking about the apothecary.
Yeah.
I don't know if the same owners because they do get the blood bags from that location.
Yeah.
So I do believe there might be business partners
Yeah.
together. But you
I think
got it.
it's
Next time you're there, you got to go to apothecary
well,
and go
you
upstairs.
got to. Like it's such a great atmosphere, and if you're nice to the staff, they will give you a business card, and that is your entrance into the speakeasy, which is so cool. I love a good
Nice.
speakeasy.
yeah.
I do
See,
too.
that's what I wanted to go. I had a whole outfit for this vampire adventure.
Yeah, we didn't
but
go to that one.
we got distracted.
Sidetracked.
That was my fault. Just saying I was a little under the weather.
Did you
Yeah.
go? Did you happen to go to the first? My first time ever there. Me and him went to the first bar ever in New Orleans. It's an old pirate bar. Did you go to that one? It was like 90 degrees out, and we walked in. It was like 60 in the building. It's just an old stone house. It used to be a blacksmith. The blacksmith.
Yes, I did, and that's where the pirates were hanging out.
Yeah, I love that. That's another great bar to go to.
The real
Absolutely.
pirates?
Yeah,
Yes.
real pirates
It
back in
was
the day.
It was Jean Lafitte that actually that was his.
Yes.
And apparently his ghost is in the dark corners. I didn't see it.
I didn't either.
And then
I read
apparently
that
he
story.
Yeah,
I read that story. I did. When we were there, we were in a different bar.
that's the
at
bar
the
I was
apothecary.
trying to
I
find.
got
Yeah.
it mixed up. Yeah.
I'm about to make a
Yeah.
weekend trip.
Well, it's pretty
I always
cool,
go down.
but it rained a little bit, and being a very, very old building, the tables, the ceiling was leaking onto the table, which just gave me more. I think it had a lot of charm. It's a little leaky,
Yeah.
but it's from 1600s, right?
And I love and you got him. It was cool in there. Like
Yes.
the air was out. It was hot outside, middle of the day. We walked in there and it was instantly cool, and it was no ACs going. Like the doors were wide open, the windows are wide open, and it's still because of that brick. It was nice and cool.
And those slush drinks they have is very dangerous.
Yes, them two should know.
Writing it down right now.
Remember that
I
slush
didn't
drink
feel
you
any
had?
effects. I was like, I didn't taste any alcohol, and I drank.
That's why it's
That's the
dangerous.
problem.
I
drank a little
designated.
bit of hers, and then I handed it off to Joe, and then we called it a day. But
Yeah,
I
stayed
really thought I
DD.
was going to be wandering these streets just drunk,
I love wandering them streets, as you all found out.
It was fun. It was fun. So I remember some girl on the streets we were walking down was trying to dance with me when we were trying to find our way back to the car. I was like, "Ooh, let me go." No, never mind. I'm the driver.
The one thing I thought was hilarious is when we got there, we took a cab to our hotel, which was down in the French Quarter, and we were staying. There was a courtyard. It was the first school in New Orleans, and that's where they built it off. That's why there's this courtyard. It was the play yard. But we go to our room. It's all original, or as much as they can original, design and stuff like that. So they have the door has like a big glass window on it, and the handle like to open it was like by my knees. It was the strangest thing I've ever seen. How small were these children? That was my first thing. How small are they?
Very small.
So we laughed at it every time we walked in and out of our room, really, because it looks so ridiculous.
That's okay. They put me in a room that I could have been the first one off if someone tried to break in.
I offered to take that room.
I had the clown room, okay?
No, but it feels, there's something about just Louisiana in general that just
Yeah.
it's just a
It's a
feeling, you know?
different, when we went, Carly was like, it's gonna feel like you're in a completely different place, and it
It
did. It
is.
felt like
We
we
were in
were
a
in a
different
different.
world.
I'm telling you.
I like to say that New Orleans and Salem are like a paranormal
Oh,
weirdos playground. Like that is like our Disneyland right there.
And
Oh, I
like
wanna go
wait to
there.
me
say
and
that.
him
I am
travel
so yes.
all over the United States. I go with my husband all over it. And I'm telling you, these locations, like especially New Orleans, Salem, there's nowhere else in the United States like these locations.
Nope.
Like there is nowhere else. Like it's like you step back in time.
Well,
Absolutely.
Like no other place.
I feel like in Louisiana, though, they did a lot of they keep the same structures of the buildings from the very, very original. They don't tear anything down, they build around it.
Mhm.
And
And
that's a great thing.
yeah, and
That's
that's what I like because not a lot of places do that anymore. And I think that also helps keep in like the feeling of, oh, this is cool because they're not tearing it down and rebuilding, they're building either around what's still left or they're just making it, I don't know how to explain it.
more modern.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like to what you were saying with the Casket Girls, remember the Pope's nails? Those did you I don't know if you noticed if you went past it, but those shutters and the door is still sealed. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
of course, the lore says that the nuns successfully trapped the Casket Girls and are still protecting everybody to this day, which according to tour guides, still claim that the evil's trapped inside there, and there's a problem with that though. Historians say those shutters are modern additions.
Yes. Like
Also, people actually went into the attic and there's no caskets or vampires. So, and then there's no such thing verified Vatican sealing rituals or magic nails. So, but still, the legend goes on, and I love the legend.
the
Because it
legend,
was never verified. So,
but the
Exactly.
legend,
Could be vampires.
it could be, but the
or it
legend
couldn't.
is what makes places like that. The legends are what makes it interesting. It makes it, I don't know how to explain it. Not
Well,
creepy, but creepy.
but if you think of it, just envision an Ursuline convent, dark attic, shuttered windows. Isn't that the perfect ghost story imagery right there?
Right
Mhm.
there. Perfect.
Mhm.
Like gothic old nunnery, and then the shutters.
Well, that's why I think the story continues today so strongly is the Gothic culture.
Yes.
And of
Yes.
course, tour guides like to add their little bits in the end.
Yeah, they do.
We went on a tour there and we hit the Lafitte's blacksmith shop. Then we went to heard the Ursuline nuns and all that stuff. And then we went to Madame Lalaury's house. And so we took a quick bathroom break and I was there. The tour guide were waiting for some people. And she said, okay, so when I say the word voodoo, what comes to your mind? And all of a sudden, the people there are like, oh, zombies and dark magic and all this stuff. And I'm like, religion. And she turned to me,
Oh,
What do you mean?" I said, "Voodoo is a religion. It's not dark magic. It doesn't create zombies. It's a religion, and it's a mixture of Catholic religion and with African religions where they came from. And
It's
they
just like
celebrated it in private because the colonial people were like, oh, no, that's all evil. So if you do that, it's evil.
that's
So
witchcraft.
exactly. And I said, and if you want to go, if you wanted to make a slave, it's actually pretty simple. One, you take away their food and water to weaken them. Two, you take away belief and for lack of better terms, like hope. If you take away their religion, take away their friends, take away their family, and starve them for a while, there you go. So I think in part that is why the voodoo itself was made into an evil practice. But it's not an evil practice at all if you actually really dig into it.
no, it's actually it's the bringer of light. And
I just
you
I
also
just like the
have
little dolls.
I
hoodoo.
have two right
You
there.
have
Nice.
also In New Orleans, something people don't talk about, you have the Spanish version of voodoo and hoodoo. You have I don't want to butcher the name. San I can't say it right. I'm not going to try. But you have different like levels of it. And everybody just goes to voodoo, and when they see stuff, and it's like, no, that actually could be Haitian voodoo, which is also known as hoodoo,
Mhm.
and it could be the Spanish version of it. Like, you can't jump to that, and actually, most of that is the light. And everybody's like, no, it ain't. I'm like, yes, it is. Like, they have, you were in the park, right?
Mhm.
And you seen the trees and that, the actual voodoo trees they have
Yeah.
there? They do their dances around.
Mhm.
I love watching that kind of stuff, and they're all in white. So you're telling me them dancing around in complete white in the middle of the day is evil?
Well,
I'm like,
let's just be honest. If they weren't European back then, they were evil.
yeah,
And they convince themselves of that to make enslaving people easier. Because when a lot of people do something wrong, they don't wanna admit they're doing something wrong, so they find a way to just make it settle in themselves that they're doing something right.
Mhm.
That is this at a big scale, and it's not
this
right.
it's not. It's they had to take the religion away because you take, like you say, you take your hope.
Yeah,
Your biggest hope is your religion sometimes,
exactly.
and they take that away from you. They take your ancestry away, and they take your roots away. You
And your
have to
family
realize,
and your friends,
yep,
and you don't have any hope.
no, you have to
That's what
assemble
I
to
was
what they
saying
want.
a couple weeks ago. I'm like, hope can be very, very dangerous, you know, but that's
And that's what
sometimes
these
it can
women
be.
had.
Mhm,
These women had hope. They boarded them ships and they had hope for a better life because that's what they were told
mhm.
from their government. They had hope.
Yeah,
Well, from their king. They had hope.
hope and lies and deceit, you know, but maybe they didn't know. Like,
Maybe the
I
king didn't know.
yeah, like maybe,
No, I think
I
he
don't know.
did. He
He
Yeah,
knew
did.
what he was
He was
doing.
getting rid of people that
Yeah.
he didn't
absolutely.
want in his
He
country anymore.
he knew what he was doing.
But if you think about this, about the myth is actually, I think, in a way better than the reality, because they were poor young women transported to a world away from their home, pressured into marriage with guys that they don't know, could be older, that sort of thing. And they were exposed to disease and hardship. They were used as a tool to build a colony, let's be honest. But if you think about it, they are the founders of Louisiana society. Their legacy isn't about vampirism or anything like that. It's one of survival. And if you think about it, in that time, there were so many things against them, but they persevered. And that should be celebrated. It really should.
It should be.
Agreed.
Now, you guys, do you know that the Casket Girls are not the only infamous vampires that came out of New Orleans?
Yeah. Ooh, I have heard about this.
Well, there's another vampire that came into New Orleans spotlight, and his name was Count Jacques de, or I'm always mixing my French and English up, sorry. But Count Jacques of Saint Germain. So the
Okay,
Count,
okay.
I don't know if you heard of him before.
Briefly, because I actually do a lot of like reading up on vampirism, because I love the history of it. Uh,
Well, the Count actually was a real person. He Records actually show, if you look into it, he was born in the late 1600s, but of course, legend says he was alive when Christ walked the earth. He pops up in a lot of different places of history, and that's why they think that he achieved immortality. Was it through an elixir, like the elixir of life, or was it, because he was an alchemist, or whether he was a vampire? Both are said. So every time he pops up in history, he's about 40 years old. Now, he allegedly was known by many of the famous people in history, like King Louis the 14th, Catherine the Great. But this guy, again, the legend, he just found a way to cheat death. So if you were to believe this surrounds the sky, many believe he actually was an alchemist. And you guys would know what alchemy is, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So they think that he created the Philosopher's Stone. So for your listeners who don't know, the Philosopher's Stone, it was the idea is if you add it to a base metal, it'll turn the metal into pure silver or gold. But some people, if you read Harry Potter or listen to or watch the movies, that is something you can use to become immortal. But the other story is the reason he was immortal because he was a vampire. So he was born, and what his childhood's just completely unknown. And the reason is because he went by a variety of names and titles. He would always deflect questions about his background. He would make crazy claims, though, like he was over 400 years old. He claimed to be the son of a Hungarian nobleman who led a war of independence. He also was a prince in Hungary. He was a prince in Transylvania. He was a member of the Order of Golden Fleece. Like he told a lot of stories. But the thing is about Jacques, he always seemed to have endless money and a really fine education. So originally, he hid his identity to push off the Hamburgs. These were the ones that actually were trying to take over the area that he came from. So that's why he kept on changing his identity that he claimed. They wanted revenge against him because he was involved in the war against them. Then he claimed he was educated in the Medici family, and he's part of that family. He was the last ruling member of the Duke of Tuscany. Like you could just fill in anything in a blank here, and he said it. But the lore concerning him is not that at all. They said he was actually a Jewish man named Simon Wolf. He was born at the end of 17th or beginning 18th century. Then other stories said he was a Jesuit, a Spanish Jesuit, and he was a native of Portugal, and he was a marquis there. He was the son of an Italian princess, and the other stories he was from the Alps. So which one is he? Nobody really knows for sure. Now, history actually found this guy around 1742. He spent 5 years in the court of the Shah of Persia and learned to be a jeweler. Then he enraptured the royals with his knowledge of science and history, music abilities, his charm. He was apparently the best person around. From there, he went to London, and when there, he started to impress people with his skills. But he was weird. So he was a talented musician. He was a painter. Wherever he went, though, he put up this kind of laboratory for his alchemy work, which is why people thought he was a little strange. He appeared to have big time wealth, but he had no bank accounts. He'd go out to dine with friends, but would not be eating food. He would drink. He loved jewels, and he'd have them covered top to bottom in jewels, like even his shoes. He had jewels everywhere. Now, Jacques actually said that he was linked to secret societies like the Freemasons, the Illuminati, the Templars. So at this point of the story, I think you guys would probably think like I am. I have no idea who this guy actually is. He sounds like an original con man, right? Because there's so many different stories. So he was arrested in London, though, in 1745 because it was believed that he was actually involved in espionage against the crown. He wouldn't tell authorities who he was, though. He claimed that he's not going by his name, but he wasn't involved in any spy activities. Then, at this point, people started thinking he's a great musician and composer, but probably a little nuts. There was the rumors that he allegedly married somebody in Mexico, who had a massive fortune. He stole it. Then he ran away to Istanbul. Other stories, he was a priest or a nobleman. Like, there's nothing here that you actually can say what he was. But the thing is, Jacques at this time had become a trusted diplomat in the court of King Louis XV. And Jacques would later say that he was performing secret missions for the King of England. So this is why people started to think he would be immortal. So about 1760, I believe, it was Countess von George heard that the Count of Saint Germain went to a party at a local home. So she knew the lady who was the party of the home, and the reason she was interested is because she actually gotten to know the Count when she was in Venice in 1710. So when she decided to go meet up with him, because again, we got along really great. He's in town. Let's go see him. So when they went to meet, she was a little shocked because he didn't appear to have aged in the 50 years since they last met.
I was about to ask that.
So of course she said, Well, I must have met your father then, right? And he's like, no, no, I'm just about 100 years old. Don't worry about it. So then he gave her a smile and he started joking around. And he said, well, I might be the same man you met, even though it was 50 years before. So after that, people started thinking this guy could be a vampire. He traveled to Amsterdam. He claimed to borrow some money from King Louis, and he gave him diamonds and collateral. Then he decided to open up peace negotiations between Britain and France, but Britain didn't want to deal with him because they wanted to deal with the King of France. And then King Louis convinced him that he needed to disavow Jacques and demand that he gets arrested, like just so he could try to make negotiations. So the king said, okay, bring Jacques in. But he convinced the British ambassador to give him a passport to go to London under an assumed name. So he was free again. He bounced around Europe. He traveled to Russia. And it was said that he was in a conspiracy to try to kill Catherine the Great. Like this guy is everywhere in history. And it's crazy. He then supposedly warned the king and queen of France that there was a revolution going to come and off with their heads.
Oh.
Apparently he knew that like 15 years early. He went to Germany and supposedly became BFF with Charles Hesse of Castile, a prince. And he lived there until his friend died, but he didn't die there. He just kept on going on. The Count of Saint Germain continued through the 19th and 20th centuries. He went back to Germany. He did that. He did this. He's just never aged. He still sat there in his mid 40s.
Is he still alive?
Mm-hmm. Today? Well,
Yeah.
I think maybe. Because he actually got involved with Helena Blavatsky. I always butcher her name. Blavatsky. Have you heard of her?
No.
She was involved in the spiritual movement in the early 1870s, and she came to the United States in 1873. By 1875, she co-founded the I'm going to butcher this one too, a Theosophical Society, and she was writing books about her ideology, and Jacques became a member. And in her books, she wrote articles about Jacques and believed him that he was immortal, and she tried to get his past, which was messy, if true, to get him a full vindication of what he did. After that happened, as he's part of her books, he jumps from the US over to New Orleans, or like down into New Orleans. It didn't take very long before he was noticed because he still looked like he was around 40, handsome, elegant, wealthy, and kind of mysterious. So a lot of the single girls were like, oh, I have the vapors. They're thinking he's pretty hot commodity. He moved into a home on Royal Street, which was one of the stops on the tour I went to. Pretty nice house, nice little gallery. And the home is actually located on Royal Street, kind of right near Madame LaLaurie's house. It's not too far away. So he instantly became a ladies' man, of course. And he was often seen with a different woman on his arm all the time as he'd stroll through the quarter. His parties were the party to go to. Like he was, that was the top of the echelon there because he's known to have the finest wines, the best entertainment. So when people went to these parties, Jacques would tell them about his life back in Paris, Italy, and Egypt. He would talk about events that were like hundreds of years in the past as if he was there. Interesting. Many of the guests presumes he's just kind of embellishing a lot to sound really cool. That's what they thought. But then they started to think, hey, is there something like that we're not knowing here? Is he maybe a vampire? Now, Jacques was told these rumors and he thought it was great and that he had this tag to him. He would never confirm or deny the rumors at all. And his behavior would perpetuate them. So an example, people went to his parties, thought that he would put on a big feast, great food. He wouldn't eat it. No. He would tell stories about his life and drink from a lavish chalice that was full of red wine. Wink, wink. But without him eating and looking like the portraits of Count Saint Germain from years and years ago, telling stories about a past that occurred, again, hundreds of years before that he had been born, people just started saying, yeah, that dude's a vampire. So a couple months after he came to New Orleans, the police were called to his home to investigate claims that a young woman had fallen from his gallery onto the street below. So at the night in question, Jacques held a party. One of his guests claimed that the young woman jumped rather than fell off the gallery, as witnesses originally claimed. She was hysterical and she was interviewed by the police, and she said she jumped off that balcony to save herself from Jacques. She said that Jacques attacked her and bit her in the neck. The only reason she survived is somebody knocked on the door, which took his attention away for a moment, and she jumped off the gallery to escape. So she was taken to a local hospital, and the cops thought, yeah, she's probably on some sort of drugs and alcohol. She imagined all of this. They thought, well, if not, she's just mentally ill, right? After all, Jacques was a well-known affluent man in their city. So this is why the police told him that night to don't come down to the station to explain yourself. It's too late. You can come in the morning. You just tell us your side of the story. But he didn't show up. Police went to his residence and found that Jacques vanished overnight, leaving most of his belongings behind. The police decided to search the house, and inside one of the rooms, they found multiple full wine bottles, and they were cracked. They were open. They looked inside, and it was a mixture of wine and human blood. And he was never seen in New Orleans again.
He is a vampire.
A time traveling vampire.
Oh,
Now, you said, is he still alive today? In 1972, a man named Richard Chanfay appeared on French television claiming he was Jacques. Now, in this appearance, Richard claimed to have a whole bunch of skills, like remembering past lives, raising animals from the dead, and he actually ended his own life in 1983. But if he was Jacques, as some believe he was, he's just reinventing himself and is going to pop up somewhere else.
That's true. I mean,
Smart.
yeah, with that though, you can't trace him.
No, he just pops up the weirdest places in history in all these different countries, and he knows all these people, and he got all these magical skills.
But did he ever change his name, or was it always Jacques?
It was always the same. But this time, as people think, he changed it. Because he did at times give different kind of aliases of it. You know, like I was a prince, but not a count. You know, that sort of thing.
It's probably because they were going to start getting suspicious.
Crazy.
that's crazy.
I wonder if we
I'm sorry,
figured
I'm
this out, if
processing
we're all
everything.
going to get...
I'm like, man. if
We're
that
going to
was,
figure this out, and he's going to come find us.
He'll come knock
I
on my
don't
door.
need that.
Stop telling that story.
Sorry.
Can we do an interview?
I'd be like, take this tree outside and make it gold, and I'll stop.
There you go. Well, I really appreciate having you on here. This has been really great. I've actually learned a lot. There was a lot of stuff I thought I knew that I didn't know, and I'm like, holy moly, you schooled me.
It was a lot of fun. I did.
It was.
That would be fun to do a trip to New Orleans, though, together.
You
Yes.
should.
Yes.
Did you guys go see the Sultan's house when you were there?
No.
You should have done it.
I think we just
Oh,
need
now
to
we gotta go back.
have more time. Like,
Yeah, we have to go
plan a
longer.
bigger,
than-
yeah, maybe plan like a week-long vacation.
Yeah, I
I'm
went for a
just
week,
saying.
and I researched all the haunted places, and I'm like, oh, I'm hitting every single one.
Yeah, we just tried cramming everything into like a long extended weekend, and most of us
See, there was
drove there, so
Yeah.
this was my plan. I was like, okay, 3 weeks of an itinerary. And then we were doing really good. And then somebody, I'm not going to mention any names, squirreled.
Okay, we didn't have time.
But it worked out. I think it still worked out. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better one, but we definitely got to go back for a part 2.
I mean, we
Oh,
gotta
okay.
enjoy the nightlife of it and the daytime. And
How about
the-
this? I got to move down there permanently, then y'all come visit.
Sounds great.
Yes. I want to
And-
move so bad.
When I was there, I loved how they'd have like, you know, how like houses or apartments for sale, and the signs like not haunted.
Yeah.
Like, and then there was some just says yes haunted.
I'll
That'd
take
be
the haunted
cool.
one.
I would take
I'll
the
take
haunted
a
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
I want a haunted one.
Absolutely.
I'll live across the street.
Okay.
We were in an Airbnb, and I know I sound crazy when I tell you this, but we were in the Airbnb, and I completely forgot about this stairwell. So like there's a two story, and at the bottom you go up a stairwell. Well, we were going behind it, so I completely forgot about it. But I was putting my little balls up, just if a spirit touches them, they light up. And so I went in there. I don't know if somebody put it in there. I can't remember. But all I know is I was looking at the ball. I put it down and I turned around and I swear to Bob, there was a whole ball right in front of me. And I was like, I was like, Carly! And I ran. I was like, I'm not going back in there. We could just leave the ball. I don't care.
I don't
have
remember that story.
I
I
have
got the
something
ball.
similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened to
Carly
me is I
better
was in Toronto.
Shh.
I was in Toronto, and I had a doctor's appointment. So my husband got this really cool little Airbnb nearby, and it was kind of like a kind of an attic apartment, which it was really cool. And went to bed, and they were saying, "Oh, don't let the ghost bug you." And they had a little ghost story attached to it. And I, cool, cool. Went to bed, and I woke up because I had to go pee at 3. So I was like walking out the door, and there was a full apparition directly in front of me. I screamed and I went back to the room and I realized it was a full length mirror that was attached to the door.
I've done that before.
Meanwhile, my
Oh,
husband,
okay.
he's like, "Why are you screaming? It's 3 a.m."
I'm screaming because it's 3 a.m. and there's a mirror.
I didn't expect that. I didn't know there was a mirror in the back of the door.
No one
I could
warned
totally
me.
see that, like your whole spirit coming out of your body, like holy moly. But I seen her clear as day. She was solid. Like that's how I would describe it. Like I was like, okay, I'm getting out of here now. Harley.
That's definitely what I would do next time. I want to stay in a haunted hotel.
Yes.
Yes.
Same.
Yeah. Agreed.
That would be fun. Like, yeah.
I lost y'all in the hotel. We went to that carousel bar, and it was really packed full. And I was like, okay, la di da di da. And somehow I lost them. And I'm like, come around the carousel. And then they were walking ahead of me. And they were like, where did she go?
Where was
Where'd you go?
I?
And I'm like,
I don't
You're
know.
you
with
were in
me.
front of me. You were.
Yeah.
I went around.
I don't remember
y'all
this.
behind, and y'all were so freaking cute. I should have got a picture of it. Y'all were like, where'd she go? And I'm like, hi. No, but yeah, I think that's all the time we have for today. I really appreciate you coming in, and this.
Oh,
has
thanks
been
for
really
inviting me.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
A lot of
That was
fun.
fun. It was.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for watching Harlots of Spooktalk.
Blessed be.
We love y'all. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Now I can go prop my backpack up. It's
We're
been
free.
She still hasn't ended this.
oh well, she can cut that part.